Hi guys, today we have been challenged. A while back, a couple fellow YouTube creators got together and issued a challenge to build something for the kitchen. They didn't say what, they don't really care. So this is what we came up with. This is made out of walnut, it's got some cherry splines in it, and this is a kitchen utensil organizer. So you got a space for your plates here, forks and knives, and napkins. And this allows you to stack all of that stuff vertically and leave you more room for the food. And we all know that is a very good thing. So if you want to see how I did it, stick around.
So all this walnut came from southern Missouri. My uncle down there has a sawmill, and that's what he does for a living. So last time I was down there, he gave me a bunch of different pieces of what he has as scrap. So I cut it all to rough length on the chop saw, and then ran it through the planer, taking it down to 5/8 of an inch. Originally I wanted to go to 1/2 an inch, but it was just breaking my heart planing all of that nice walnut down. I needed one piece to be 1/4 inch, and this is going to be for the actual utensil holders. So you see all the different pieces laid out. Cutting the top to width and length, using my Le Shop Vac fitting to get some nice rounded corners on the bandsaw and belt sander. And then I put a nice round over on it using the router. To make the base piece that holds the plates, I didn't have a wide enough piece as it needed to be 10 inches, so I glued 2 pieces together, and once everything was dry and cleaned up, I used a circle cutting jig on the bandsaw with a radius of 5 inches to get my 10-inch diameter circle. The vertical supports of this organizer are curved, so I used the Big Print program to print out some templates, cut them out roughly on the bandsaw, and stack them up using 2-sided sticky tape. And then using that big stack, I was able to cut all the pieces out very evenly at one time on the bandsaw. To make the support that holds the curved pieces together, I cut out 5/8 of an inch strip on the table saw, and then cut them to 10-inch length. There's obviously 2 of these to hold each of the 4 supports. And then to glue that all together, I used a speed square referencing off the straight edge of the table saw. Just made sure everything was straight and used a equal size spacer on the top to hold everything even while I clamped up these round pieces, which was loads of fun to get that right. And I decided to use a spline in this just to give it some more support. I actually dropped one of these and it just came right apart. Not on the glue line, ironically, so I was able to glue it back together and put these splines in for lots of extra strength, and it actually came out really good. It was the first time I did splines, and really beautiful and exceptionally strong, so I'll be making a real spline jig and doing it again. The unit itself is going to be held together with dowels, so here I am finding the center of the vertical supports and making a 1/4 inch dowel hole. Moving on to a different section of the build, these pieces are to hold the napkins along the top plate. So I cut them out to rough width on the table saw and then put the curved top using a template on the bandsaw, and drilling the dowel holes for assembly later on. When I was designing this piece, it took me a while to come up with an elegant way of adding some cross-sectional support laterally across this unit, and I came up with these triangles, I guess, that go on either side, and they fit in the curves very nicely, and it actually added a lot of strength. To assemble these cross supports, I again used the flat table saw and perfectly straight reference surface and the speed square to make my original holes using some dowel transfer pins, and then put the dowels in and use the transfer pins on the other side to transfer the holes to the bottom. Again, just making sure everything was perfectly square. drilling the dowel holes in the cross supports so that I can transfer the correct dowel locations into the vertical curved pieces. Here I am putting the holes in the bottom to hold the plate section. Lining everything up to do a nice transfer of the dowel holes onto the bottom of the plate section. And transferring the holes from the cross supports onto the vertical legs of the organizer. Transferring the second set of holes of these cross sections was a little bit tricky just because I wanted to have the dowel pins in the top hole but not the bottom, so I had to spread it apart a little bit to get the pins in place. Transferring the dowel holes for the napkin holder section. And standing everything to 220 using the random orbit sander. Moving on to building the cup parts, I had a decagon on the bottom of the cup which was going to help support the side pieces and be the base of the cup. Sanding that down to the line, and there's obviously 4 cups. And to make the cups I needed 10 pieces that had an 18-degree bevel on either side, which gives me a 36 degree. Multiply that by 10, you have your full circle. And that's the scrap I had left on the right, so cut it pretty close. Used painter's tape to hold everything together while I was gluing up the cups. I wasn't so worried about having a absolutely perfect cup. This is not going to be holding water, just going to be holding utensils, so little gaps I wasn't so worried about. I obviously wanted to make it as nice as I possibly could, and I was pleasantly surprised there was only 1 or 2 gaps in the cup. Gluing everything together, trying to keep it as clean as I possibly could, using a straw and just a wet rag. I want to mention that I sanded everything on this unit to 320 by hand, just to get rid of any possible markings I had from the orbit sander. Gluing the cups on for the final touch. Now to finish this, I put on a nice coat of linseed oil and wiped it off. And I do plan on putting a top coat on that at some point. Not quite sure if I'm going to do a lacquer or if I want to try to do a beeswax finish on top of it. We'll see.
Well, this was an absolute blast to build. I couldn't be more happy with how it came out, and my wife loves it, so it's great for me. One thing I would have done different was made these splines on a little bit more shallow of an angle. That would have just given me a little bit more cross-grained strength through this bottom support here. I probably could have sat on this with the way it's built, but I wasn't going to try. But these cross supports add a lot of strength to the top. Not that you need very much for napkins and such. So like I said before, this was for the 2015 Kitchen Utensil Build Challenge. There was about 40 creators that got together. There's a link to all of their channels below here. You should check every one of them out. Top to bottom, watch them all. Give us all a thumbs up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Tyler. I like to do it myself. And we will see you guys next time.